So what do we have happening here today?
We have a candidates forum for commissioner for the Las Vegas area, and there's going to be 10 people speaking, 10 candidates, and it's an open forum.
Okay.
All right, we're getting started.
And I want to send folks a reminder. Some people have already been doing it. We really appreciate it. Some of these are really good questions. If you have an index card, looks like people are also using scrap paper. If you want to write your question down, if it is for a specific candidate, go ahead and write their name. But some of these are like general questions. So we cannot have every candidate answer every question because it will take an hour to answer one question. So I wonder how we want to divide this up. Maybe it's like the first person to raise their hand and I can see you. Does that seem fair? So the question is, what have you done for the community that makes you especially qualified?
Thank you for the question.
Go ahead, Eddie. Go ahead.
First of all, I'm here asking for your vote. So good morning, fellow citizens.
And you have 2
I'm here
minutes.
asking for your vote, fellow citizens. Good morning. The name is Hamilton, Republican, if you can tell from my shirt. And also, what you can do is, basically, Nevada has an open primary. So if you agree with some of my answers, on the day of the election, you can vote for anybody. You just have to go and ask for the ballot. So I'm qualified because I am a Republican and I have great suggestion what we can do with the county. Number one, I am
Let me redirect you because you only have 2 minutes and we have specific questions. So what have you done, Mr. Eddie, that makes you specifically qualified to serve on Clark County's commission?
What is important is what you have in your idea. I've been active in the Republican parties and working with the Republican lawmakers. And I'm pushing for the affordability by putting more money in your pocket. That means we have to suspend sales tax for a few years to handle the affordability, and the same thing with fuel taxes. And we got to take money away from the bureaucrats. So for example, Mr. Pick here, he's getting 2 or 3 pensions and he has to cut it back. We cannot afford that. Secondly, I have a proposal to use the 58,000 acres of stolen land. We've got stolen land here, right by Mount Charleston. I want to develop a mountain resort to attract skiers and snowboarders here. And also, I'm a law and order candidate. Our District E has 80% more crime, so I'm willing to ask President Trump to bring the federal troops here, 200 or 300 soldiers to patrol the East Las Vegas to make arrests.
Thank you so much. And because I know that Ms. Mindy has to go, I wonder, Mindy, if you're able to answer this question. If you could talk about what you've done for the community that made you qualified to be a Clark County Commissioner.
Good morning, everyone, and thank you so much for having all of us here to listen to how we can help you and face our voter on June 9th. I am from the foster system. I've grown here and been in Nevada for 31 years. And as a Nevadan, I have advocated for our families affected by domestic violence, those that are trafficked into the United States, affecting Nevada, and also with our first responders. Coming from a foster system, I didn't have the opportunity, whether going to college, but I am a high school graduate and got skills training. So I look forward to helping and making an impact on our county commission to those families that are affected by housing and those affected by jobs that our families and all of our kids of our future that they need affordability for, and that we look forward for them having those opportunities.
And then we're going to go to the next question after the judge.
While we're resetting the time, I just wanted to clarify information. Nevada does not have an open primary. You have to be registered to a party to vote in the primary. So if you are interested in voting for any of these candidates, you need to be registered as a member of the party that they are registered as. With so much mis and disinformation, you do need to make sure that we clarify when something gets miscommunicated. Unless you're a judge, thank you. Yes. The judge, partisan, yes, thank you. These are partisan races here. Are we ready on the time? Thank you, Minja.
Well, good morning, everyone. My name is Minja. One of the most important roles of county commissioner is that we set policies on housing, land use, urban planning, transportation, and infrastructure policies. Right now, Clark County is standing at a crossroads where we don't currently have a long-term 20-year vision of where we're going in the next 20 years. And from my background, I've been involved in local government policies on housing, transportation, serving RTC committees with Southern Nevada Strong, and co-presented bills in the legislative session, advocated for transportation funding, which RTC is having a deficit right now, and we're continuing being the last and the only metropolitan city in the Mountain West that does not have a real mass public transit system. So the crossroad that we're standing is, for the next 20 years, we have to build up, not out. And we're facing a serious water issue right now, negotiating among the upper and lower basin states. And I was also the consultant, worked on the Clark County Chinatown redevelopment plan, which I am proud to say is one of the most extensive community outreach redevelopment plan that Clark County has ever done, gathered 700 responses from community members and small business owners for a community that has been underinvested for so long, the lack of infrastructure, the amount of potholes that we have on Spring Mountain. So I look forward to continue the momentum that I think Clark County is on the right path of focusing on infill and redevelopment projects, and we need to continue the momentum of doing that to make sure that we have responsible growth that protects our water resource and the beautiful public lands that we have, especially in District F. Mark Amador wanted to sell off 65,000 acres of public lands in Clark County, and that's when I joined the Sierra Club and fought against that, and we mobilized the community, and most of those lands are in District F by Blue Diamond Hill and Mountain's Edge and Southern Highland and Sloan. So the next county commissioner for District F has to be the one that champions responsible and sustainable growth.
Thank you so much. We want to move on to the next question. What is your position on data centers in your district? Hi, Christian.
I'd like to talk about this quite a bit because District G is right now the proposed site in Boulder City for the town site solar data project. And what is ridiculous to me is that even with the ones that we currently have built, the other one being in my district at the Google Industrial Park, is that nobody's talking about the right environmental safeguards that are needed, looking at the water thresholds of all of these data centers that are monitoring their use cases, and figuring out a way to make this, something that's comfortable for the public to even accept. They're not doing that right now. As your county commissioner, my job is to make sure that I'm an enforcing voice on ensuring that when we establish community benefits agreements with these companies, we need to be doing more to see how we get them to give rather than take, right? Looking at expensive infrastructure, even if it includes saying, hey, you folks might need to be paying for water desalination and filling up Lake Mead if it's going to keep on dropping this way, right? And so utilizing this position, this seat, no longer as a seat that's going to collaborate with Mark Amadei and sell away our public lands, right? But using this seat to find how we get our public bought, sold into these types of projects by ensuring that the rich are paying their fair share for what they incorporate into our district. And that's what we're going to enforce. And I'm glad when it comes to environmental sustainability, our county has had a 2023 municipal action plan. It's going to mean nothing if the federal government is going to continue leading a decay on our environmental regulations and our carbon emissions. We need to see something bolder for our county, and I'm loving everything that Minja is talking about with clean transportation, with focusing on our infill and making sure that we don't build with sprawl in mind. We need to end sprawl, build up, and build smart. That's our goal, and that's going to be my plan when I'm Clark County Commissioner.
Thank you, Chris. I saw Justin's hand go up.
Yeah. Can you guys hear me all right if I just talk, or should I get a mic?
Let's get a mic.
We'll hand it back and forth, and I hope
that we don't all get a little bit of a cold after this. For data centers, they're one of the biggest problems right now in most of the places they're being deployed. Not only do they consume massive amounts of water and energy, but several of them are just bringing in temporary ways to generate that energy, including methane-producing plants. So in Clark County, I believe that any data center that wants to come here has to promise us 3 things. One of those things is a match or exceed of the water they plan on using. I'm right in line with bringing the desalination, or however they're going to bring it back to Lake Mead. They have to produce 110% of the power they're going to consume. They can do it solar, they can do geothermal, nothing that's going to use fossil fuels. And then the third thing is they have to have equal jobs for a building of their size. A lot of these things come in, they take up giant warehouse-sized buildings, but they have 3 people that are on shift making sure stuff runs. Then every 12 to 18 months, they bring a giant herd of people to swap out the servers, swap out the data cards that are doing this processing. That's inconsistent and not good for both our labor force, our water force, and our electric force.
Is there anyone from District E that wants to answer that question? Mr. Eddie?
Come on, folks, be real. If you don't want data centers, get rid of your iPhones. Go back to the Stone Ages. This is technology. You don't need water to cool the data center. There are other ways of cooling the whole thing. So leave it to technology. Work with them. I agree that the people should not suffer from higher electric power bills. So you can't just get rid of it unless you want to get rid of the modern way of life. I don't think you will. You can't go on Instagram, you can't go on Facebook. Get rid of your iPhone and computer. We must deal with this thing. We need data centers, but we got to do it smart. That's my point. Thank you.
Thank you. And I have the next question here that I would love to hear Commissioner Segerblom and Commissioner Gibson answer. Obviously, we're here because there's an election. We have a president who's talked about putting ice at the polls, not honoring mail ballots. Can you talk a little bit about how your role plays a role in election integrity? And I would love to hear from you too, since you're current commissioners, and then open it up to everybody else.
I'll go ahead and start. Well, first off, I'm terrified about this upcoming election because I think the president really is going to try to declare martial law, bring in ICE, do anything he can to disrupt it. And the Supreme Court agrees on this mail ballots thing and not being able to mail your ballot and then have it counted unless it arrives. How are we going to handle that with all the mail ballots going out? So we have to really watch out. With respect to mail ballots, if the Supreme Court does rule the wrong way, we are working with our election department to make sure we have boxes all around the valley, many more boxes, so that people can take them on election day and put them in there. If they're in that box, then they'll be counted. But it is very scary what they're looking at, and this is just the beginning. We have probably the best election department in the country. It's phenomenal what they do, how they produce it. It's totally nonpartisan. We aren't involved at all, but that doesn't mean that we don't have to be very vigilant and watch it very closely and make sure that it's not disrupted by outside forces, because I know they're going to try to do that.
Thank you. So when it comes to election integrity, I have a son who was in the Attorney General's office a few years ago who was responsible for conducting the investigations into the alleged fraud at the ballot. He took it very seriously, and I spent a lot of time talking with his findings after he had made it. And as it turns out, there were a couple of things that we could find probably in every election going back in history. But there was no massive voter fraud. There has not been in Nevada, and part of that is attributable to the way the Clark County Election Department conducts its business. The equipment that we have there is not just new, but it is so fully vetted We have spent enormous amounts of time looking at the software, looking at the hardware, ensuring that all of it works. And now we have actually voting booths out around the community at events that we sponsor, and people get an opportunity to look and see how they actually work. I think it's really important to be comfortable when you go in to vote. When it comes to the quality of elections and the mail ballots, we've used them effectively. We have a Secretary of State who is very much on top of it, and I'm confident no matter what anyone else would say, that the mail ballot system will work here. And I endorse it. I think we've got to make sure everyone votes, and this is as critical an election as we've had. You all know that. Actually, you can say that to people on either side of the question, of any question. Everyone is afraid, and that's not the way we need to be. In our situation in this country, we need to be able to vote. We need to be able to get everyone out to vote. We have to vote. And we need to have confidence in the outcome, and I do.
Thank you. And Lenna, your hand is up.
Hi, it's an honor to be here today as also a candidate for Clark County Commission District F. As a lawyer, an attorney who's worked in federal court on constitutional law cases, we all know that the right to vote and access to voting, and also not the fear of intimidation around voting booths, especially as immigrants. I'm an Armenian American immigrant, came to this country at the age of 4 years old, and how we protect the way that we conduct our democratic system, especially in primaries where traditionally we've had a low turnout. We certainly want to protect the immigrant communities who need to come out and share their voices in these very important elections. And I will say one other thing that is also important is beyond the voting booth is also the integrity in the election process. And that means that, when you have candidates who are running against you who are taking money from independent expenditures and sending mailers to voters, I think that needs to be transparent. It needs to be reported on time. And I would say that, one of my opponents has not done that and is taking $125,000 from a former commissioner and is helping to promote her race. All of my fundraising comes from individuals. I have no PAC money, I have no corporate money, and also I'm proudly endorsed by Congresswoman Dina Titus, and also I'll be announcing an endorsement from Democratic Congressman Ro Hanna. I'm a champion for human rights. I have a real track record. I've passed legislation in the Nevada State Legislature, co-drafted, advocated for, and passed Holocaust and Armenian genocide education legislation, which is now being integrated in the Nevada public school system. So I'm a real proponent for education, and I will continue to be that, along with all the other land use issues we have. Thank you.
Great job, thank you. Yeah, Minja, next.
I just want to add on that Clark County, one of the 5 residents in Clark County was born outside of the U.S. So in District F, we have about 20% of the Asian American Pacific Islander populations, and we also have about 19% of the Hispanic populations in District F. So I think language access will be something that I would like to see Clark County to work with local medias and nonprofit organizations to make sure that we really reach out to these communities and make sure that if they're qualified U.S. citizens, they can register to vote, and make sure that they feel comfortable putting the voting locations in where they go to in the local communities. For example, I know that Chinatown Plaza always has a voting location there, and that's right next to the largest grocery store in Chinatown. So I would like to see, I think Clark County is doing a great job, and I think there's a lot of more that we can do for community outreach to make sure that there's language access for the immigrant communities.
Thank you so much. I see Eddie's hand down there, and then after him, we'll move on to go to the next question.
Okay, and number one, I was accused of the moderator spreading disinformation. Effectively, Nevada has an open primary. You can change your registration even at the election day, and you can vote for anybody you want. I said effectively. Anyway, in the situation, we need voter ID. According to CNN and other liberal media, the American people, Democrats support voter ID, but Republicans supporting it. However, Democrat politicians are against it. What are they being afraid of? Number one, mail-in ballot is not new. It's called absentee ballot. But in 2020, the Democrats, without any participation of Republicans, passed a universal mail-in ballot with a lot of fraudulent activities that could happen from it. We've been working on it to make it better. But there will be fraud. And I'm against what my opponent, Mr. Serena, was saying, putting drop-off ballots everywhere. That would be a disaster. So let's do it fair. If you want to change the election law, you must include a bipartisan situation. You cannot be universal in changing the most effective law in America. So that's my point. Okay?
Thank you so much. So we're gonna switch up our format just a little bit so that we make sure that all candidates get to speak. So here's what we're gonna do. We're gonna address questions to the candidates based on the district. The same 2 minutes will still apply, and then the next question will move to candidates that are running in that specific district. That way it gives us an opportunity to make sure we hear from everybody, and it gives us a chance to be as fair as we possibly can, okay? So we're gonna direct this question to candidates in District F that are running, and I'm sorry, let me start at G, because we just heard them. Okay, so District G. The American Lung Association has given Clark County an overall grade of F for air pollution. The very air that we breathe is affecting our health and our children's health. What investments and actions would you propose for infrastructure and transportation to make a difference in the air we breathe? Starting with Christian.
Again, like I said with the municipal action plan, this is a venue of the county commission where we can actually strive for greater goals in reduction of air pollution. And that starts with making sure we do everything from infill development, like we talked about doing things like canopy cover for all areas of our county, but no matter what area you're from, especially those in underserved communities, which really do feel the worst effects of heat island effects. Figuring out those surgical ways by bringing together partners from the environmental and regulatory climate policy background to help us shape that together. And that includes needing a more robust and equitable transportation system so that it has accessibility on all corners of our county. Between that, investing in community solar, microforesting on every building that we can in our county, including on the Strip. If they're going to be here trying to suck up the energy by focusing on the Strip as the brand, which is what our county under current leadership has focused on, it's ridiculous. We need to be able to adapt. We need to be able to put a climate action plan that focuses on limiting how much air is getting polluted by the big billionaire projects that come into town and bully around the people that don't get access or input on the projects that they're developing. Again, as your county commissioner, I plan on being a co-governor of the community's will in all of our input projects, ensuring that we're following environmental safeguards and listening to stakeholders and the community when it comes to these projects. Boulder City had already told you folks how they felt about this data center, right? Imagine what happens if we can incorporate that community's voice in how we develop so that we can do it sustainably and environmentally consciously.
I'll just say first, right, I am no expert here in the communities or like the climate, but I believe as a whole we have a lot of issues that the community is not being heard for. And I echo the fact that you know, we need to listen to the stakeholders, but the community needs to guide and dictate that rather than backdoor deals and such. I'd love to hear what Gibson's you know, proposal here is, because this is something that I'm not versed in whatsoever, but I know that it's an issue. I mean, spraying the skies, there's so many debates as to what that entails, and I know there's some truth. I served in the military for 11 years, and I know that there's aspects that you're not told things forthright, especially while you're doing a mission. So I think there's lots of questions and lots of unanswers, and I hope that we can get to the bottom of it. But the bottom line is we need to represent our community and not other interests.
Clark County has been really active in making an effort to frame a plan. The All-In Clark County plan, allin.clarkcountynv.gov is where you can go to take a look at that plan. We started the work in 20 and 21 and did an enormous amount of outreach, received something from everybody that had a voice. And as a result, what you'll see when you go there is a comprehensive plan that explains the conditions that we see and the conditions we want to avoid in the future. And there are enormous benefits that will come to us and that have begun to show themselves as we work through the initiation and implementation of that plan. I'm very much concerned about the environment. I'm concerned about our water availability. One of the things that is easy to say is we need to go up, not out. I agree that we need to infill as much as we can in this community. One of the challenges you have is that you can't cool a building that is over 5 stories or that is over 4 stories high unless you have a chiller, and chillers are not presently available in new development. So that means that high-rise anything, whether it's a casino, hotel, or it is an apartment complex, cannot exceed the limits that are imposed upon it because of the unavailability of the water. Water is something that is a challenge to us, right? The Colorado River is in the most significant drought ever. This could end up being the worst drought year on the river ever. And we're battling in a contest that is being mediated by the Secretary of the Interior over whether the northern states and the southern states can get along with each other. It turns out we have an interesting agreement with California and Arizona, and we work together, and we'll be able to overcome those challenges in due course.
Thank you. Before I direct the next question at Commission E, starting with Manny, I do want to recognize we have a current elected official, Linda Cavazos, who's a Clark County School District trustee. Are there any other current elected officials that snuck in other than the obvious? So, starting with Manny and then going on to the rest of the candidates in Commission E, will you commit to writing legislation and earmarking a portion of your generous budget to ensure grassroots groups can exercise their First Amendment rights to free speech and free assembly to make free speech in Clark County truly free?
Yes. Thank you for having me, everyone. I want to thank the 2 incumbents that are here. I appreciate your decades of work and all the candidates. It's not easy to run for office. That said, it's amazing to sit here and listen to everyone. Everything that you guys are saying is party politics. We got to stop looking at the letter next to your name and start doing the damn job. You want to be a public servant, so serve the public. The gentleman next to me, I don't know him. He might be the most amazing man in the world. I don't care. He represents the district that I live in. District E is the most underserved district in Clark County. Does anyone here, not sitting on this side, know what the county budget is for this year? Just spit out some numbers.
2 billion.
How many?
2 billion.
2 billion. Anyone else?
4 billion.
12 billion. Okay, it's 10.1 billion. We're supposed to be on that side, but 10.1 billion. Why do we live in Las Vegas where the temperature surpasses 100 degrees for 45 days minimum a year, and in our district, the bus stops don't have shade? So, Mr. Gibson, I don't know him. You might be a nice guy too. Do your job. If you're a county commissioner, listen to people. I've got pools, community pools in my district that have been closed for years, but they talk about $300 million beautification of Maryland Parkway, but you can't fix a pool for 20 grand. So I don't even want to start with Mr. Hamilton because we both have an R next to our name, but we are very different. We can't change the federal government, we can't change President Trump, we can't change ICE. County commissioners impact the county. So let's focus on changing that and keep all the party stuff for another day. Thank you.
We do have the second fastest growing city or area in the country as far as heat goes. So we need to address that issue. Wednesday, I'm hosting a countywide heat summit where we're going to be talking about this issue, bringing all the parties together from different entities, different nonprofits, and just the public to talk about it, where we go from here. This is something we can do without federal help, but we need to start coordinating. Yesterday, I gave away 200 trees, which is not a big deal, but truthfully, in East Las Vegas, it makes a difference, and this is the kind of programs that we need to start focusing on. Historically, we were so worried about growing, we didn't worry about the heat and the climate and all that stuff, but going forward, we need to start focusing on that, and that's what I've been trying to do, is move this battleship and start going in that direction. Let's look at growth, how it impacts everything. Let's look at air. Let's look at all these qualities to make sure that our life is better.
Can I repeat the question? Please. So will you commit to writing legislation and earmarking a portion of your budget to ensure grassroots groups can exercise their First Amendment rights and free speech and free assembly? I would say, for an example, my organization, we've done public protests on public sidewalks and then been billed by Las Vegas Metro Police.
I apologize, I got sidetracked there. So yes, one of the ironies in Las Vegas is we don't have a public place where we can hold a No Kings event or something like that. So we need to work on that. I know Commissioner Gibson and I are focused on trying to do that, whether it be the Silver Bowl or some other area, but it is something where we need to have a place where private people can go protest, not have to be charged for police protection, and exercise their First Amendment rights. Because I go to those No Kings rallies, and there's thousands and thousands of people there, so there's obviously a huge need for it. We have a place where you can go, park, and protest, and make your voices heard without having to pay an arm and a leg.
I absolutely support protection of the First Amendment. However, it must be two ways. It must protect Republicans and Democrats. Currently, the free speech is only protected for Democrats and the left. That's right. Republicans groups are being attacked everywhere. You know that. Now, I have a tremendous respect for the League of Women Voters. The League has always been committed to democracy and free speech, so I supported that. Now, previously, the question about transportation, we need to stop thinking about us at the back like the third world country in Asia. Over there, you see, you can wave anybody and catch a ride. So we should be able to license cars, expanding, get away from the big buses. So we need to expand the use of transportation by ride sharing, making it easy. So I support the First Amendment. There's no doubt about legislation supporting it. I'm in favor of that. Thank you.
The next question is going to be for candidates in District F. What changes do you propose to tax rates or revenue sources under the control of the Commission? Sure. It's okay. What changes do you propose to tax rates or revenue sources under the control of the Commission? Anyone can start.
For the $10 to $12 billion of annual budget of Clark County's revenue relies heavily on tourism and economic vitality related, like sales tax, and a portion of it comes from property taxes, but we also have one of the lowest property taxes in the country. So as we continue to sprawl out, the infrastructure cost of urban sprawl is not going to generate enough revenue for us to cover the cost of these infrastructure. So we have a structural deficit problem at Clark County where the revenue coming in is not going to be enough to cover our infrastructure costs and the long-term liabilities that we're going to have. So I would, as a county commissioner, I would look at into diversifying economy and also to look at the different revenue sources that we can come in that will rely less on tourism and also look into stopping our urban sprawl problem and promote infill and smart urban planning, because the economic impact and the property tax per acre that you'll be able to collect for infill development is much higher than low density urban sprawl development spreading out. So we have to rethink how we grow for the next 20 years in order to fix our structural deficit problem of our balance sheet at Clark County. And also, I look at some of the breakdowns of our infrastructure costs. I believe that Clark County and the Department of Public Works will have the capability to invest in a light rail transportation project, and that will allow us to rezone some of the parcels next to transit to go higher density, to do transit-oriented development, to create the return on investment that we need. Phoenix saw a $7 to $1 return on investment for the light rail.
I'd like to focus on, as Minja said, that we do not have the benefit of having a sales tax. However, we do have big events that happen, such as Formula One. We have big sports teams. We haven't really tapped into the potential small fees that we can put on those tickets, which are really considered a luxury that we can use towards education. And yes, we do have a structural deficit. Part of that is transparency and government accountability. One of the commissioners cost the county $80 million because of bad decision making. It is very important, as someone who's been a federal court clerk, made decisions for a federal court judge, to be able to make sound decisions and think about accountability and balancing of interests. So going towards diversifying the economy, as somebody who is an attorney but also has had a healthcare software company in the past for about 10 years, my husband and I co-founded that. I think it's very important that as we do not depend on the strip entirely, the casino industry, we diversify specifically in industries that we can, like healthcare. We have a whole sector of this population that is not, actually maybe everyone who's not receiving enough health care. It takes forever to see a specialist. We really have an opportunity to build out the healthcare industry, and we can make it thrive. Second, technology. I'm not talking about AI, I'm talking about building out like medical technology and being a hub. And what an amazing basis for building our economy that would be, and the jobs, and also a revenue stream for the county. And third of all, I would also say industry. There's the Haas manufacturing plant. Well, we can replicate that. That's a tremendous amount of jobs you can bring. Again, you have thriving parts of the economy because you have people who are getting high-paying jobs, and that's the conclusion. Thank you.
Laura, I think what we all want to think about for District F specifically, as our district grows, I see our district being the one that is needing more schools, needing more hospitals, as we build more affordable homes for our families. So we are a growing district. What I see as one of the county commissioners who, they have all done an amazing job working to make it better for the whole county. One of the positions that they do oversee is our tourism, which is LVAC, and why not ask our tourists that come in and enjoy our grounds for a little bit more of those taxes instead of it being on our people? So that's how I look at that. It's like, why hold our people more accountable for our taxes here, where our tourists should pay in a little bit of that, where it could benefit our fire department, our police department, or just our nurses who are overworked in our hospitals. And when they are overworked, there is not the best patient care there is for all of our families, and that is important. And I've heard a lot of you talking about that today as you moderate. It is about our kids and our families and clean air, and that's what it's about. So thank you. Thank you.
So when we're looking at these problems, one of the things that I like to say, like one of my favorite words around this is manifold. All of these things are interrelated and structurally both on the tax side and the revenue side and where it goes and where it comes from. So while we're looking at these, we can sometimes kill more than one bird with the same stone. I'm in section 11, which has a whole lot of rural preservation lots that are on septic. We've seen what happened with the Southern Nevada Health Department. The problem is a lot of people don't have the money up front for the payment for it. They don't have the money to do the annual inspections, and that's where all this stuff kind of fell apart. But if we split it up, and as a county with a budget of this size, go, hey, we'll do it now, you get us later. And the way that would work is we'd ask everybody that's on septic, do you want to do septic? And in exchange, we get 2% when you sell your home. You could live in it forever, will it to your kids. Whenever it gets sold next, 2% comes back to the county. And we'll pay for everything up front. We'll put in the sewer, we'll put in the line of your house, we'll get you all hooked up and off of septic. That helps us with a lot of problems we're having on septic. We had a leak in my neighborhood recently. It smells awful. I do not want it to happen to anybody. On the other side of that, when we talk about property and our sprawl and what we're seeing right now, there's these massive homes that are being built. So one of the largest sectors of sold homes in the first quarter was these massive multi-million-dollar lots up in the McDonald Highlands and the Ridges. They're gorgeous. I like having the people here. The property tax is helpful, but some of them sit empty all year. I like what Zoran did in New York, and I think we can do a similar thing. If you've got a house that's over $2 million and you don't live here, it's a second home, your property tax rate goes up. Not a lot, but pay for what you get when you come here. At the same time, when we look at the new developments that are going in and the infills, people that are sitting in land banking and just waiting for that to go up or a developer to approach them, you got 2 years to give us a plan of what you're doing with the land. After that, you've got 2 years to implement. After that, 1% increase in tax every year until either we take it back or you do something with it.
I'd like to address this, please.
Let Serena do finish
Oh, yeah,
off
go
that.
ahead. Sorry.
So one of the things, we do suffer from lower sales tax, especially right now with the drop in tourism on the strip, which is one of our biggest sources of revenue. We do need to diversify our industry in this town and find other ways to increase tax revenue. One of the things that we should do, like Justin said, with Zoran, we have so many empty houses that are multi-million-dollar homes that do sit empty, and why aren't we raising the property taxes on those specifically? We don't need to raise taxes to affect every single person. We need to raise taxes on that 1% that can afford it and isn't going to miss that. Because that's where we truly need to see that money coming in from that's going to help everyone else. And that's probably the most important thing. It's taking care of our people so we can put that revenue back into our communities. Build schools, build hospitals, build healthcare centers, expand our transportation, give people the opportunity to live and get to what they need without being burdened with higher costs.
Manny, and then it'll be District G.
Can you ask the question again, please?
Basically, the question is, what changes do you propose to tax rates or revenue sources under the control of the Clark County Commission?
I'm mortified by what I've heard from everybody to the left of me. Why don't we look at the budget, analyze it, put it online, see where we're wasting money, instead of trying to tax tourists, which we're already crushing. I'm the only one on this side that owns a company that works with casinos and the strip every day. We're losing business because we are fleecing tourists with all these extra fees. So what you're proposing, all of you left, I'm sorry, bonkers. Secondly, this state was built on gaming. Gaming is changing. This isn't the 90s and the 80s where you went to Vegas or you went to Atlantic City to gamble. You gamble online. Every state has gaming. They're building Wynn casinos and MGM casinos in Dubai. You know what happens in 18 months? We lose the Indian money, the Russian money, the Saudi money. So why don't we look at what the lady said first? The next 10, 20 years, we need to diversify what generates money here, not further rob and pillage people that choose to spend their hard-earned money here. So we have $10 billion in this county this year being spent. Where is it going? The gentlemen that work for the county here don't even know where it's going. So let's start by looking at where we're spending money, where we're wasting money, and then Mondani's idea is stupid. People are gonna not buy houses here. They're gonna go to Florida, Texas, wherever. So again, let's not do clickbait. Let's be smart. Let's do things calculated. Let them make sense, and let's move our county and our state forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Manny. Now, County Commission G, candidates, I guess we can start with Christian because the mic is in front of you. The question is, what is Henderson doing? I don't understand what that is, the parentheses, but what is Henderson doing to address the growing population of the people who are homeless in Henderson?
They're pushing them out of the Flamingo Wash and just expecting them to go and find resources when they're just in the suburbs now. So as of recent, pushing them out of the Flamingo Wash has been the only thing that the county has decided to muster up. When really what we should be doing is figuring out some open area solutions for these unhoused folks, which include possibly utilizing the stadium that's furthest east on over by the wetlands, and utilizing that as an area where we can concentrate, similarly to Zoran Mondani, a Department of Community Safety, which coordinates mental health resource access directly to those communities, right, could be concentrated in an area rather than just pushing them out and expecting them to find help. And I think as of right now, what the county is doing with finding some motels to kind of utilize as rent solves some of the problem of making housing accessible to those who are on the verge of evictions. But what the reality should be with our unhoused folks is that they're here. And acknowledging that reality rather than just pushing them to the side is a much more strategic way of being effective and finding the help that they need. And this incorporates nonprofit partners from the Just One Project, folks from 3 Square, folks like Nevada Hand. Those are relationships, believe it or not, where I've been able to curate through Star Trek fandom. These are the places where I've been able to direct the energy and volunteering of people, good people that find values in diversity and helping your neighbor and directing them to a place where they can extend those values, right? And so what I'd like to see is something similar to AmeriCorps. If we're no longer going to be having funding at a federal level for that, that's something that's a program that I've been a part of, a privileged kid that got off my hiney and decided I needed to get in there and help my community. And I think that reflects the Vegas strong philosophy really well if we can incorporate a county leadership apparatus that guides that energy.
There's a question to clarify the question. So this is a question from the audience about Commission G. I think they're just correlating Henderson to Commission G. But basically it's like, what are you doing to reduce the growing population of people who are homeless in the area?
Yeah, so I mean, this speaks to my heart. I drive all over, including Henderson, and homeless are everywhere. What I've understood past administration to do is to throw money at it. They tried to zone some land in Henderson. It didn't happen, so now it's in the valley. But ultimately, these people have lots of issues. They have complex things. They have spiritual needs. They have emotional needs. They have physical needs. They have drug, addictions. And we need to, look at this as a whole. I love the idea of like using the stadium as a community center, but it's going to take more than that because ultimately we need to invest in our community so we can invest in for our kids and future kids. I, as a physician, especially now going a holistic approach, have recognized that throwing pills at things and putting people in homes just gives them haven, but they can still continue to do the things that they're doing. And they're doing these things for lots of obvious and not so obvious reasons. So we have to look at it comprehensively, and homelessness is a big issue. And obviously it affects our community, but we need to look at it as the people first.
We've spent an enormous amount of time and energy Clark County working to move things to the place that we all hope we can get them to. You know, the police department has these teams that are called community-oriented policing teams, COP units. You've heard of them, maybe you've dealt with them. The COP units principally are out there working with the homeless, not as a police officer who's there to bust them or even to move them on, but rather to see what can be done to get them to trust that there are things we can do to help them move from homelessness to some other condition that would be an improvement in their lives. We are spending an enormous amount of money to do this, but you know that 2 out of the 10 people that they contact are able to be influenced. Now, for those who are influenced, we get them into one of these motels, we get them into other housing that we have, whichever program it is. The recidivism rate among the people that we actually get to come in and agree to receive services is very, very low. The problem that we see is that it takes 12 to 15 intersections with someone who is homeless, who is resistant, to persuade them that coming forward and receiving services is something that would benefit them. And the whole concept here is we've got drug addicts, we have the mentally ill who need special care. Both of those groups need very specialized, uniquely different care. And we're offering that with the care schemes that we have out on the street. So in the end, it's all fun and well to talk about raising money. In Nevada, county commissioners don't raise taxes. We don't raise taxes. We don't get to impose taxes. We can charge fees and raise fees and make it that much more difficult and more costly to do business here.
Thank you, Commissioner. I'd like to move this question to. Go ahead, Manny.
Can I address that? I'll just take a minute because I don't want to waste too much of your time. So we have 8,000 unhoused in Clark County. We have 4,000 beds. So the Clark County Commission last year decided to pass a vagrant ordinance which allowed Metro to arrest or relocate these individuals. Now you would say, wow, that's a good idea, right? If somebody's constantly homeless and they're constantly somewhere being a vagrant, you should be able to either arrest them or remove them. But what the county commission did, which was the evil part of it, which was the pandering part of it, is at the bottom it said, you can only arrest this individual if you have a bed for them. So why are we asking the commissioners, why would you pass this ordinance and talk about, oh, I'm doing something, when your language says, no, I'm not, because we have half the beds of the homeless people, the unhoused people. Secondly, $200 million, I think, Mr. Gibson, please correct me if I'm wrong, we're building a new facility in 2028 that's going to help 900 individuals. It is a public-private, $100 million came from public funding, and meaning our tax dollars.
From the state.
From the state, and $100 million came from private funding.
The gaming industry.
Correct. So, 4 years to help 900 individuals. If any one of you are bored on a Monday or Tuesday, go downtown. There's 5 facilities that take care of the majority of the unhoused. Number 1 issue, sexual assault. Go walk the facilities. You'll find armed security manning the doors. So I went there and I said, excuse me, how many people try to break in? The guy laughed. He goes, nobody breaks in. So why do you have armed guards, perimeter? Why don't you put a male guard in the male showers, a female guard in the female showers, and by the way, every day they kick them out at 8 or 9 a.m. depending on the facility, and then you line up at 4 p.m. and it's a rinse and repeat. So if you know, can I have 10 more seconds to finish on this?
I'm sorry, we need to be fair.
No problem.
You know, there's
The
one
system
thing-
sucks. We got to change it.
There's one thing that I think needs to be made clear here. Our ordinance does not say that it's unlawful to camp unless there's no bed. It does not say that. A federal judge said that you cannot remove them from the wash or any other place or a park. Imagine children playing in a Little League game with the homeless all around them. We can remove them from the park if there is a bed available to them. And I think we need to kind of understand some of the premises that we're talking about here a little bit more. I mean, fundamentally, we don't raise taxes in Clark County. If you would ask us what we don't do, there are precious few things, but right at the top of the list, we don't have that authority. The state legislature sent us a bill and said, raise the taxes if you will, to accomplish these 9 things. And so we said, well, we hate raising our sales tax. It affects every one of us every day. But we did it anyway. We were demanded by the legislature to do that. We did it. But that's the way that additional resources are generated when you're talking about changing tax rates or increasing or adding additional things that are going to be taxed. I think it's important to understand that.
Thank you for the clarification, Commissioner. I saw Minja wanted to jump in on the question around homelessness, and then we're going to move to a new question, and that question will be for candidates in District E. So, Minja.
Historically, in this country, we have been underproduction of housing. And that's the same case here in Clark County. So I would say some of the biggest drivers of our homelessness that we're seeing is underproduction of housing and mental health services. Clark County needs to invest more resources and funding into this sector. And also because a large portion of our workforce here in Las Vegas dependent on the strip and tourism in this economy. So I also have been hearing a lot of folks saying that they're now switching from full-time to being on call. That means their income is not stable. They don't know whether they can afford the next month of rent. 90% of the residential zone land here in Clark County is zoned for single family only. So that has been preventing us from doing a lot of higher density or something called missing middle housing, like duplexes, fourplexes, or townhomes. So if you look at the historical development pattern of the Las Vegas Valley, we have been doing low density, spread out, sprawl development. And right now, as our population continues to grow, and there's a UNLV study that shows we're going to grow at 700,000 more people in the next 20 years to hit 3 million people in population in state, or in, double check me on that one, but 700,000 more people in the next 20 years. So our population continues to grow. We have to build a lot more housing because the more supply we add to the market, it's going to help lower the cost of housing as well. So as a county commissioner, I think we have a lot of power in terms of zoning and land use policies, and also allocate. If we look at the budget of the county, we have to make sure that we invest smartly and plan for less in this uncertainty of economy. So we have to invest in mental health services, so it will help reduce the homelessness that we see.
Thank you. We're going to start with Eddie, the candidate in District E. What is your position on accepting corporate gifts such as flights, conferences, or Formula One tickets? If you believe that such gifts are acceptable, will you disclose all corporate gifts or disclose gifts only when required by Nevada law?
Should be on.
I pledge that if elected, I will not accept any gift. I'm totally against it. It's unethical to accept tickets for the Rolling Stones or, well, at that time anyway, the F1 formula. So that should be illegal for politicians, totally illegal to accept any gift. Politicians make so much money, they don't need gifts. So I will be against accepting any gift, and anybody thinking the gift right now, they have to give it to charity. And I think Mr. Segerblom has something to say about this. And another thing I was saying earlier, 100,000 children in Clark County are facing food insecurity. So as your commissioner, I will have expanded food bank and central kitchen. That is a promise. They are more important than politicians. I'm going to work for people, not for government. So again, regarding gift, it should be illegal. Any kind of gift should be illegal. Thank you.
I'm not sure about my Rolling Stone tickets, but other than that, I won't take any gifts. But I will say this, there's a lot of things that we as county commissioners regulate and take a hell of a lot of crap for doing it. Like Formula One. Formula One is a major problem on the strip. We had to be involved in that on a daily basis, making sure everything fit, making sure our constituents are able to get to work, back to work. And so to go to the race itself and see how that impacts everything, to me, does not seem inappropriate. So I apologize, I did go to the race. I don't know what it was worth, but the truth is, that's part of my job, is to see how those things work. Now, since I got reprimanded ethically because of that, I don't go to the Formula One, and it's really the county constituents who are losing, because seeing it up firsthand and seeing whether it's worth it to keep that race going or whether we need to shut it down is something that we all need to work on, and that's something that as a county commissioner we need to do.
I'm probably one of the few conservatives that has no issue with Tick going to F1. My issue was that he didn't disclose it. He apologized. Let's move past that. ET, on the other hand, you have no problem with Trump taking $400 million to build the new White House wing, but we won't even go there. So, if it's legal and it makes sense, there shouldn't be an issue, but always disclose. It's not rocket science. 6 out of our 7 current commissioners are attorneys. They are far more versed than me, or most of us here, except for Lenna who's an attorney, that they know what's right and what's wrong. So let's not pander on small things. Do what's right, take care of your constituents, pay attention to what they need, give a damn, you'll get reelected. If you're gonna follow a party, R, D, independent, whatever, then you're not following your constituents. Why waste your time being a public servant? If you need to check, then say, hey, I need the money, I'm gonna run as a Republican or a Democrat, I'm gonna do whatever the party tells me, please vote for me. But don't sit here, and I'm not saying us, in general, don't run for office if you're not gonna do the job. You are a public servant, whether you're a school board regent, the governor, the president, anywhere in between. Just do your job. Why is it so hard? We get caught up in our lives that none of us pay attention. We all go vote for a party. I'm fiscally conservative, I'm socially liberal. People are like, are you a Republican or Democrat? Like, I'm a Ronald Reagan Republican and I'm a JFK Democrat. Why? I'm not Trump and I'm not Kamala, so don't look at me as oh, what's the letter? We need to put people in office that want to do a job, that have the ability to do the job, have qualifications to do the job, and are not reliant on the check. I got 10 seconds to speak. And I get no claps. Thank you.
I'm a Bernie Sanders Democrat.
All right, so we are running out of time. We're going to have one more round of questions, but I do want to acknowledge you. Well, there's another elected official here, Judge Jessica Peterson. Thank you for making the time. My question is for Commission F. You guys can decide, you all can decide who wants to go first. In 1956, the Santini-Burton Land Act created 5-acre parcels around the valley. Do you have any ideas for use of the remaining parcels?
Hello? Waiting for the time, yes. Yes, look, the number one issue we have is housing affordability. It's shortage of housing, and I have heard the numbers that we are 100,000 units short, so we need to build housing primarily. However, the way we plan that is through actually a plan, infrastructure and plan. And we don't need to be building urban sprawl. We also have to balance it with community centers, parks, recreation, and also retail. And we don't need another, a high-rise condominium building of $5 million condominiums. We need housing that people can actually afford to buy. If the average home now, the single-family home, is about $490,000, we need it, and we have 30% of the homes that are owned in Southern Nevada are owned by corporate investors. 30%. So, that failed at the state legislature. And one of the Republican opponents in this race abstained from the vote that would have limited corporate housing, corporate investors to 1,000 homes. That's Heidi Kasama. I also want to talk about my particular opponent who left, Minddie Lloyd. She used to be a Republican, 2016, 2018. She ran as a Republican and lost 2 races. Now she's suddenly a Democrat, hoping she's going to win this race. And she's well funded by Justin Jones. We need to have transparency in government. And whether we're talking about housing affordability and how we're building housing, it starts with transparency. what's our plan, what's our vision? We have to have a real plan and a vision about how we're going to execute. For someone who's actually passed legislation, seen it through all the way to the end, I pledge that I will build that plan and that vision and make sure that there's a balance of water consideration, parks, recreation, retail, and affordable housing and all of that. That makes sense for everyone, not just the wealthy in this district.
If it's a 5-acre parcel, I will first look at where is that 5-acre parcel located in which community, and I will do an extensive community outreach program and ask what the neighbors want in their neighborhood, because the Clark County Valley is so big, so it depends on where that parcel is. Maybe some neighborhoods want a grocery store because they live in a food desert. Maybe some neighborhoods there's a need for senior living assisted communities. So I think it's important. There's a difference between building to the community versus building with and for the community. So I think it's important to hear from what the people in that neighborhood want, and if Clark County owns the land, then we can do a lot of community outreach to work with the neighbors in that community. And in terms of housing, I think Clark County needs a comprehensive long-term housing plan for the region. I know Southern Nevada Strong and RTC published a housing plan that we can tackle. I think a lot of the topics that we mentioned at this forum today, whether it's regarding to housing, homelessness, water, air quality, it all goes back to what I mentioned at the beginning, is the lack of long-term vision. Where are we going for the next 20 years? And we need to start to look at these issues from a long-term perspective rather than a short-term perspective, tackle these issues individually, but they all relate together. And the Utah did a great job with their vision plan, that they put all of the stakeholders together and formed a 30-year vision. We need something like that for Clark County. So that's my answer. Thank you.
So, as Minja had said, depending on where the parcel is located, we're going to need to look at what the neighborhood needs. Of course, we need more housing, but is 5 acres going to really be enough even for a good-sized apartment complex, depending on what the neighborhood needs? So you really need to see what the neighborhood needs and build from there, whether it is like a small grocery store because they don't have access, or a community center, or even maybe walk-in clinics, which don't exist in every area. Sometimes, I think where I live, the closest walk-in clinic's a 20-minute drive, like at night, so you don't always want to do that when you aren't at the best, especially if you have kids and whatnot. So it's really looking at what makes the most sense for that area and building from there. It's not about just building to build, but really being thoughtful of what you do with that land and how it's going to benefit the immediate community and then the larger community around it, most importantly.
There we go. All pickleball? No. In reality, though, everybody's touching on the same thing, which is it does depend on where it's at. But as it is county land, we should focus on the things that we can bring a benefit to as a county. Libraries, hospitals, even schools. In addition, though, we should look at the mixed-use parcels. We should take at least 1 or 2 of those and do a stack, where on the first floor it's restaurants and grocery stores, the second floor is like WeWork and office space, and then above that people can live. The closer you get people to where they need to be, the less they have to drive around. That saves lives, it saves the air, it saves energy. I do have a minute and a half, so I'm going to touch on something else while we're here. We keep talking about the former Democrats, now Republicans that are running, former Republicans and now Democrats, and then some Republicans who are now independents. I am all for open primaries with ranked choice voting, and I have no effect on that at the commission level, but I just want to throw that out, my support out there.
All right, perfect so much. Let's give our candidates a round of applause. Thank you so much. It takes a lot of courage to run for office, to make yourself public, and to make your ideas available to be scrutinized. So we really thank you so much for being here today. I want to especially thank my lovely moderator and friend, Laura Martin, of course. deep gratitude to our partners at League of Women Voters, at READ, AAUW, thank you so much now, Good Trouble Las Vegas. I also want to make sure you all know, of course, there's an election coming up. Early vote will start on May 23rd. We have 14 days of early vote because democracy means it should be accessible. You should be getting your ballot in the mail. You should be getting your safe ballot in the mail. You can vote early between May 23rd and June the 5th. Please sign it, seal it, send it back. You don't have to put a stamp. Don't forget to sign the envelope. That helps our friends at the Clark County Elections Department. And if you're like my grandmother who just didn't like to vote early and wanted to do it on election day, then you vote on Tuesday, June the 9th. Okay? Thank you all so much for coming out. Safe travels home.
We want to thank everyone who came today, participated, and brought your questions. We'd like to especially thank our candidates for their participation. And we want to give a few special shout outs.
Just a second, please. There's more announcements. I'm sorry.
Okay, we just want to thank everyone, and we'd like to appreciate your participation, and we want to thank you for bringing your questions and your concerns to our forum today. Thank you, candidates, for taking time out of your busy days and schedules to come here and participate with us. We appreciate that. In addition, we'd like to thank some very special people and groups, our moderators, timekeeper, volunteers, the Enterprise Library, and many other members of the Las Vegas Save Democracy Coalition. Very special shout out. Finally, we want to recognize and shout out to a few very special people. Lori Rubenstein from Good Trouble Las Vegas. Lisa Smith, also Good Trouble Vegas. Gerald Mays from NAACP. Margot Tello from the American Association of University Women. Norman Wright from Sun City Liberal Club. Nicole Beer, Reed Freely, Nevada. Kathy Bruce, also from the American Association of University Women. Sue Birch from Nevada Now. Aurora Cox from Mothers Demand Action. Kevin Mock from Braver Angels. And Barbara Moore Williams from the League of Women Voters of Nevada. And one additional person who helps us to do many of the things that we do, Elke Lerman. Again, thank you all for coming.